Welcome to the Chan 7. In our home, we love read-alouds. And in this video, come find out which read-alouds we loved and which ones we didn't like so much this school year. And make sure to stay to the end to find out what our top picks are. If you're new here, I'm Yuri, dentist turned homeschool mom to 5 great kids. This is actually a collaboration that I had decided to throw together about our least and favorite read-alouds for this past school year. I truly feel that homeschooling is a collaboration and a group effort. And I love that we can bounce ideas off of each other. Several other homeschool parents have put together videos about their read-aloud hits and misses for their school years. So don't forget to check out the playlist so you can be inspired and get some great ideas about books for your family. It's rare for our family to not like a book, but there are a few from this past school year that we have dragged through. And most times when I read a book or start a series, some of our kids can't wait for me to continue reading that book or series, so they may go off and try to read them on their own. I love that reading out loud has provided some good launching points for our kids to want to read more. I'm going to go ahead and get started. First up is Matilda by Roald Dahl. Matilda was actually the first book that we read for the school year, and I would have to say this was a definite win. I'm also going to say that overall this was our family's favorite read aloud for the school year. It has a mixture of humor, sadness, creativity, and magic. And if you don't know, and if you've never read this book, or if you don't know anything about this book, it's about a gifted 5-year-old girl who has the most horrible parents that don't care a thing about her, but she has the most amazing gifts. I don't want to give it away, but she meets some people that will encourage her and some people that will make her life super hard. If you haven't read this book, we would totally recommend that you read this one. Our family thinks that all of the Roald Dahl books are fantastic, so that's a definite win. Next up is Little Women. Little Women was also a win for our family. We did read the abridged version, however, because I liked that each page had an illustration in order to engage our younger children. But I do feel like it's a good launching point to wanting to read the actual unabridged version. So Little Women is set in the mid to late 1800s, and we get to follow the 4 March sisters as they develop from childhood through adulthood. It's fun to see how the March sisters are so different with her unique gifts and personality. And it's also really captivating to share their adventures, especially when they have to take care of each other while their mom is away in order to help their wounded father in the Civil War. And it's always a bonus when books are based on the author's own life experiences. We thought Little Women was so charming, and whenever we could find a movie version of a book we've read, we tried to watch the movie of it. And that goes for Matilda as well. So we watched the movie version, and it was fantastic. And Little Woman was also amazing. We watched the one that starred Winona Ryder, and we really enjoyed it. And so Little Woman is a win. Next, I have The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. This is another win for our family. Most of us know the story about the orphaned Kansas prairie girl, Dorothy. She gets magically whisked to the land of Oz in a tornado. This one kind of hit home for us because currently we are living in Oklahoma, where there are frequent tornadoes during the spring. And I had never read this book as a child, so I couldn't help when we were watching the movie compare how the movie is with the book as I was reading to the children. I like that this one is, has illustrations. We're going to say that The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was a win for our family. My next book is one that I'm not sure if we like so much or not. It's The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. I had actually tried to read this one long ago when our oldest was a lot younger. She's 12 right now, and it didn't go so well. It was too wordy, and we couldn't get into it. But I was excited when I found this version at a discounted bookstore. because it's fully illustrated. And I was hoping that it would be more engaging for our kids to follow along. The Jungle Book was not at all what I had expected. I expected the adventure story of Mowgli, the human child who was abandoned and then fostered into the wolf pack. And interestingly, it reflects the author Kipling's childhood about having the sense of where one belongs and where one is accepted to belong. But what really surprised me was that this book wasn't just about Mowgli's story. It's like a collection of different stories set in the wild. It was a little hard for us to catch on and follow along as to how all the stories interrelated and interconnected, because a lot of times the stories felt like they were random. But of the stories in the Jungle Book, we enjoyed Mowgli's story, of course, and also Rikki Tikki Tavi. So I'm going to say that this one is a miss for our family. Next I have Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. People love this book, so I really wanted to read the Little House series to our family. And actually, we didn't like it at first because it was a little bit of a slow start, but eventually we were able to appreciate the simplicity of the Wilder family as they live their simple lives in a log cabin. And the Little House series is set in Wisconsin in the late 1800s. And again, this one is based on the author Laura Ingalls Wilder's childhood. And do you see a recurring theme, recurring commonality between or amongst a lot of the books? And I love that. I love that a lot of these books are based on the author's actual lives and experiences. My favorite part was how the Wilder family would get ready for the winter, and all the details in making food like cheese and molasses snow candy. So we're going to say that Little House in the Big Woods is a hit for our family because I want to continue and go ahead and try to read the next books in the series. Next up, I'm going to share about is the Sarah Whitcher story, written by Elizabeth Yates. I don't have this one to show you because a friend of mine urged me to borrow it from her because we have 2 toddlers, and this story really resonated with her when thinking about how we have toddlers about the same age as the main character in the story. And basically the story is set in New Hampshire in 1971, and it's based on the author's grandmother's experience as a 3-year-old who is lost in the woods and ends up staying with a bear in a bear cave for a week. And the whole family is looking for them, praying for her, and just out, and the whole community gathers together looking for this little girl, Sarah, who is lost in the woods. And just trying to imagine all the emotions and feelings that a little 3-year-old is going through, being lost but trusting a bear in the woods, and that this bear is willing to take this little toddler, this little 3-year-old on as if she were her own child. The Sarah Whitcher story is a quick read and we would totally recommend it. So we're going to say that the Sarah Whitcher story is a win. Next up is Lea and Camila, which is an American Girls book and written by Lisa Yee and Kellen Hertz. I'm going to say that this one unfortunately ended up being a miss for our family. We had a hard time pushing through this one, and I initially wanted to read it in order to find out what sort of books our 7-year-old daughter would be interested in reading. But unfortunately, we didn't like it, so it wasn't something that she would want to pick up. So it's basically a story about a girl from Missouri, Lea, who went on a trip, on a vacation to Brazil and met a friend, Camila. And Lea invites Camila to Missouri. And during that time, Lea makes a mysterious discovery in an old, crumbled-down mansion. And through that mystery, Lea forgot to be a good host to Camila. I did enjoy learning a little bit more about Missouri and about St. Louis and how it's, has some French flair and French connection. But we had a really hard time pushing through it, and unfortunately it was not one of our favorite books to read. And I'm actually surprised that we actually pushed through this book and got to the end. Lea Camila is a miss for our family. Next I have the Hardy Boys. And so we read several of them, but some of them that we read were The Tower Treasure and also The House on the Cliff. And I wanted to read these in order to see if our son would be interested in reading them, since he was having a hard time and we were having a hard time finding some boy books that boys would like to read. And fortunately, he ended up loving them. And it's basically about two brothers, these two Hardy brothers, who follow in their father's footsteps and solve detective cases. So the Hardy Boys ended up being a win for most of our kids, but especially for our son. Next up is the Usborne Complete Shakespeare Stories from All the Plays. This one took us quite a while to get through, but our kids were engaged and so wrapped in the twisted plots that William Shakespeare has put together in these plays. Our 7-year-old had begged me to read this one out loud, and I wasn't so sure. I kept putting it off because it looked so dense, and I wasn't sure that our toddlers would be able to handle it. But everyone did well, and we got through it. It took us a while, but they loved it. And before we would start a new play, we would try to guess whether the play would be a tragedy or a comedy. And it was always fun to discover whether we were right or wrong. I wanted to find some of the plays on YouTube so that we can get a better picture of the plays. But a lot of the plays are pretty dark. I'm sure some of you know already, like Hamlet and Macbeth. There are a lot of big topics introduced, like murder, jealousy, and even suicide. So if you're not ready for those sort of topics, you might want to start with some lighter comedies like A Much to Do About Nothing or Twelfth Night, which our kids thought those were just hilarious. But for our family, the plays gave us a chance to talk about some of those more serious topics like murder, jealousy, and even suicide. So we will have to say that the Complete Shakespeare was a win for our family. And finally, The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This one had us wanting to hear more. It brought back the innocence of childhood to a whole new level. It is about a little boy who travels the universe, planet to planet, seeking wisdom. And along the way, on his journey, he discovers the unpredictable nature of adults and how adults are so jaded by the world that they forget to enjoy and notice the simplicity of life. There are many themes that run through this book, but my favorite is the importance of fostering relationships. And to go further, apparently the Little Prince represents the autistic child with Asperger's syndrome who has a hard time accepting the world of adults. We love The Little Prince for its creativity and for being so deep for all ages to gain a little something. The chapters are really short, and this pop-up version was really fun. So The Little Prince is a win for our family. So which book did each of our children like the most? I was kind of surprised that they all chose a different book. Our oldest, who's 12 years old, she chose Little Women because she related with it so much, since we also have 4 girls in our family, like the March sisters. She liked that all the girls had their own unique personalities, and she related most to Jo, who's the second of the March sisters, because Jo likes to read and to write. So that's the one our oldest one likes. Our almost 10-year-old son chose the Hardy Boys. He thought it was fun to be able to try to solve these fun cases. And then our 7-year-old chose the Complete Shakespeare because she's always loved Shakespeare, and she begged me to read this one. And she loved the twisted plots and being able to discover and figure out whether they were tragedies or comedies. Next, our 5-year-old chose Matilda. She liked the funny parts where the dad would get mad. And my favorite was The Little Prince. I love The Little Prince because of his childlike nature, yet he had such a big message to share with the world, to slow down and to enjoy the simple things in nature, and also to cultivate and work on the relationships in our lives. There are many really good quotes in this book, but one of my favorites was, "It is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important." It's the time that we have wasted with others that makes them so important and how our relationships are growing. I really needed that reminder, especially as a homeschooling parent, that the time that I spend with my kids is more important than trying to get them to finish their schoolwork or to succeed in life. It's the relationships that are going to be lasting in the end. I hope this video was helpful for y'all in discovering some worthwhile read alouds. I think our family did pretty well with having only 2 misses out of the 9 books that we read in the school year. Our family enjoys reading together, and it's been fun discovering literature, at least for me. I didn't grow up reading much, so reading together and out loud has been a whole new world. It's like I'm reliving with the experiences I didn't get to have during my childhood. Don't forget to check out the playlist and get some good ideas on different read alouds from these wonderful homeschool families, and of course help support them. And please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. All of those actions really help our little channel out so much. And as always, thank y'all so much for watching, and have fun reading out loud.